Well, another pro-life leader is opposing abolition. Surprise.
Welcome to episode 23 of the Liberator podcast. I am James Silberman, and I am here with Russell Hunter and Sam Riley. And today, we are talking about another pro-life leader who has come out and has once again publicly opposed the abolition of abortion in another state.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I would say that, that's surprising, but it's just not surprising. It's just expected at this point. So,
yeah. And so in Arizona,
I was fully shocked, so I don't know what you're talking about.
You were fully shocked. It was like, oh my gosh, pro-life leaders in Arizona are opposing the bill of abolition the day that it's promoted.
Yeah, I was stunned.
Yeah. So we're kind of saying this because we feel like we're beating a dead horse on this program, but at the same time, every time I get on Facebook, I run into people who say, you're misrepresenting pro-lifers. Pro-lifers don't oppose abolition. You're like, yes, they do. Literally, we can cite every place that a bill of abolition has been filed. It is opposed primarily and most loudly by pro-lifers, and not run-of-the-mill pro-life, not like, oh, I'm a Republican pro-lifer, like pro-lifers who become the pro-life leader of the state and get awards and stuff. So, yes, Arizona.
right, and so this is actually pretty, we're going to talk about obviously the bad parts, but the really good news is, one, there's a bill to abolish abortion in Arizona for the first time. Like
Fantastic
that's
bill.
amazing.
Yep.
Two, the thing has 10 co-authors, 10 total authors, so the primary and 9 other authors, including the House Majority Leader and the House Majority Whip.
Yeah. Not to be cynical, but we should say at this time.
At this time, yeah.
It has 10.
Yeah. It has distracted me.
Wow. I don't even know why it's doing that. I guess
I think it might have been too much water.
Huh? Yeah, I poured too much, obviously.
I don't even know why it's doing that.
I don't remember. I did 2 pours.
That paper towel back.
I got them.
I'm including this in the episode somewhere, by the way.
You should definitely include this. Yeah, so just to be clear, it currently has 10 co-authors. I'm not trying to be overly cynical about it. It's just kind of like when we see that, we're like, wow, that's really awesome. That's really good. But do they know what it is? And do they know that it's a full-blown criminalization bill and all the implications? And are they going to be able to withstand all the opposition? The trend has been that we've seen is some authors kind of leave and they think, oh, I just signed on to this because I thought it was a pro-life bill. I like that legislator. I'll sign on to it or whatever. So we hope, but the beautiful thing is it's a solid bill. It meets the components of an abolitionist bill. It's full-blown, total, immediate abolition, and it has all these authors and leaders in the state. So you're thinking, wow, Arizona's going to lead the way. It's not going to be Oklahoma. It's not going to be Texas. It's going to be Arizona going to abolish abortion. They've got all the dominoes in the right place, except for the pro-life movement in Arizona comes out.
Yep.
So
the primary social conservative organization in Arizona is the Center for Public Policy. And the day that our Arizona friends in Abortion Now had their big rally to support the bill, Kathy Herod, who is the president of the Center for Arizona Policy, tweeted out this: I oppose any move to put the woman who seeks or has an abortion in prison. In the pro-life community, we love both the woman and her unborn child. Both are victims.
Yep. So pretty standard pro-life response. But the thing that's so notable about it, it's on the day that there's like 1,500 people rallying to support a bill to abolish abortion. And so you've researched this. They're a conservative think tank group, and they are well respected. And so anyone in Arizona that's like, well, this looks like a good bill, there's lots of people here, if they follow and trust them, they're like, oh, it's a bad bill because the three things. So what were they? They were, it punishes the woman. And in Arizona, I guess they don't have a death penalty, so it put her in prison. I oppose putting a woman in prison for breaking a law that is passed that says she's not allowed to seek out an abortion. And in the event that we pass a law that says you can't seek out an abortion, I oppose you being punished if you break that law knowingly with malice and forethought. Okay, so pro-life position.
Yeah.
And then the other was the two victim statement.
Yeah. So in the pro-life community, we love both the woman and her unborn child. Both of them are victims.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just this philosophy that's dogma to pro-lifers.
Yeah.
We love them so much, we're not going to tell them the truth.
Yep.
Yeah.
And actually I appreciate it because, like I said, I'm always saying pro-lifers are committed to these ideas. And then, like pro-life leaders, lobbyists, legislators, politicians are committed to this idea that mothers who knowingly murder their children are victims and therefore we can't abolish abortion. And people are like, no, they're not committed to that idea. But I love it whenever the pro-life leader says something like, this is the position of the pro-life movement, or in the pro-life community, we believe this.
Yeah, it was the National Right to Life woman. I can't think. Carol Tobias, I think this is her name, in an interview with End Abortion Now is talking about no pro-life organization.
Yeah.
No respected or pro-life organization would ever support this.
Yeah, and it's not just like the Catholics it's not just the Catholics who may oppose the death penalty for whatever theological reasons, but it's also like, I've heard it from Al Mohler, Russell Moore, basically when they were rebuking Donald Trump for saying, well, there's got to be some kind of punishment. They kind of said, no, Donald, no pro-lifer thinks this. So it's just helpful that it's not like us misrepresenting or representing the pro-life movement. This is what the pro-life movement believes. And so in a certain sense, it's not surprising, it's predictable, and it's awful, but it's also good because it clearly draws the line.
Right.
Pro-lifers do this, and hopefully that'll have a positive effect, and you'll get kind of a birth of a very strong abolition movement in Arizona.
Well, it's one of the biggest things that it draws the line, but it also shows that the pro-lifers do not want the same outcome as us. Because a lot of times the both and people will be like, we're both looking for the same thing.
Yep.
No, we're not.
Yeah.
We're looking for criminalization. People on your side are saying that they're victims. That's not the same thing. Yeah. We want this to be a criminal act where anyone who does it is punished to the same degree that anyone else murdering anyone else would be punished.
Yeah. And I think that the primary, like maybe we should talk about, I mean, I know we've talked about it before, but I think we're about to experience this in Oklahoma. You're probably going to see it in every state that there's an abolition bill. But I think even when listening to Sam kind of just say this so normally, like abolitionists, we believe that there should be punishment. There's like a part of me that grew up, in this world, and it's like, oh, that sounds harsh, But then I'm like, well, wait, do I think that women are not like as able to sin as men? Do I think that they're dumber, like that they need like special permissions and all this kind of stuff? So you have to rewire your brain to say, no, we're not saying anything that's crazy harsh. And one of the ways to get people to understand that is to kind of like draw analogies or whatever. It's like, okay, so a mother who drowns her newborn, do you think she should be punished?
Yeah, it's just got to trot out the toddler.
Yeah, you got to trot out the toddler to that's a great analogy that's used to destroy pro-life arguments and bills. But yeah, I mean, you can do that to get people to think, and because a lot of people will say, well, no, I think there should be punishment if someone kills a newborn. You're like, okay, so you're an ageist.
Yeah.
But then it kind of gets a little slippery, and they say, well, no, the issue here is it's somebody who's been indoctrinated by the culture to believe that abortion's not so bad. And so abortion is not like killing a newborn because, it was previous to the passage of this law in this world, was legal. So she's doing something that she thinks is legal. Well, right there, you're basically arguing that the reason that she's killing is because she's been tutored by the law. Mm-hmm. And so what abolitionists are advocating isn't harsh. It's actually standing up for the victim, the true victim, the preborn baby, and also the future women who are facing this decision. Mm-hmm. They're being tutored.
If the problem is you haven't been educated or people don't know it's a life in the womb, which is what pro-lifers say, you can't criminalize abortion because mothers don't actually know it's abortion, so they're not doing anything wrong because they don't even know they're doing anything wrong.
Right.
And I mean that's ridiculous. It's stupid. It's dumb. Like, it's real bad.
It's demeaning.
Yeah. But even let's even say it were true, right? Like you're saying, the way to fix that problem is to write and pass and enforce a law saying a preborn child is a human being.
Yeah.
And it's murder to kill them. Like that's how you fix the problem entirely.
And they don't even realize how much it's just straight identity politics. It's like if you are a woman who is pregnant, you are a victim.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to have the baby, you're a victim.
Oh yeah.
No, like you're not. You don't get to be a victim just by virtue of your sex, by virtue of your situation. Mm-hmm. That's not how it works. But it's just the spirit of the age to think if someone's a victim in one thing, maybe there's someone in an abusive relationship. If they're a victim in one thing, they're really a victim in everything. That's what people believe. But, it is just completely, they reject all that stuff on one front, but then they completely adopt it on the other front because it's convenient for them.
Yeah.
Thinking about abortion.
Like any claim that the pro-life movement would make that they're counterculture or cultural or that they're swimming against the stream of modern thought and all that kind of stuff is ridiculous. Mm-hmm. They are exactly like you say, identity politics. It's just like our culture is just obsessed with victimhood. Like everyone's a victim. That's how you win arguments. You say, well, I'm a victim, and then you kind of won the argument. And so, you do this thing where you make any woman.
Well, you can't be a victim, Russell. You're white. So.
Oh, well, you say I'm white, but
there's no such thing as a white victim. Unless you're pregnant and a woman.
I've always wanted to tell you, but I actually identify as a African-American lesbian Jew.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so...
I'm sorry.
You offended me. Now I'm a victim.
I apologize.
How dare you? And my pronouns are shim. Anyway, but that's how ridiculous this world is. And I think that that the pro-life movement, sometimes people don't realize that they're just basically swimming along with it. But I think the leaders, the lobbyists, the pollsters, that's why they craft this language. They go... okay, what sells in our culture? Victim. We gotta, abortion hurts women. So let's pass laws about protecting women from abortion.
Or let's let them save face on this. Like let's give them an out for the abortions that they've committed.
Yeah.
Type thing.
Yeah. I think you have, that is like going on where, it's like, there's just sort of like, they want to be more compassionate than, Jesus. And Jesus is like, wants to tell them the truth and say, hey, you know what? There's forgiveness for the sin of murder. Repent. I can, just like any sin. And so I think that's one major thing that we can't say too often, just about the whole criminalization bit, and the two victim things. So meanwhile, the pro-choice movement is out there shouting their abortions.
Yeah, the pro-choice movement, the people, a lot of the mothers and fathers going into the clinics are, like our friend Brett Baggett was up at the clinic in Tulsa about 2 weeks ago, and he's talking to a mother who came outside to sit in the parking lot for a bit just before her abortion, and he asked her, are you here to murder your baby? Are you here for some other reason? Like, what are you doing here? And she goes, yeah, I'm here to murder my baby. And she says it straight, exactly like that.
Yeah.
I'm here to murder my baby. They know.
Yeah.
They know. We all graduated sixth grade biology.
Yeah, they're not playing the victim card, which is
people
interesting.
don't realize how frequent that is too. It's like it's all the time, every time you go out.
Oh yeah, one of the best ways to convert a pro-lifer to abolition is they have to know what we're saying and what the categories are, and then take what the pro-life movement has told them out to the abortion clinic, and they're going to be like, wow, that's not what happens. Like they're going in very proudly.
Interpret it through that lens. Like, oh, they're not being serious. They're just, they're just saying that because they think that's what I believe, but they really believe it's not murder. Type thing.
Well, I always want to do this. This is like one of these unethical things where you can't do this when you're out there. But I always thought, man, if you went out to an abortion clinic and somehow were able to survey everyone going in and film it or something, like that's not what you're out there to do. So you can't do this. But theoretically, if you went out there and you're like, do you know where babies come from? Yes. Well, do you know that human beings don't pop into existence whenever they're born, but they develop in the womb? Yes. Do you know that abortion is ending the life of that human being? Yes. Like they would just, and just like, okay, just wanted to make sure we're making a video about how the pro-life movement says something completely different about you. Yeah. But of course you can't go out to the clinic and do that. You're out there to preach and plead. Yeah. But that's the reality. That's what we would find. You don't find people out there, being dragged predominantly. But we should say there are sometimes two victims. And you had a good point about that when we were talking, that like those who really are true victims are really being sort of overlooked here.
It's kind of the right word, but it's very it kind of belittles their hurt and like what happened to them when you say that all these women are being coerced. And it's like I've seen pro-lifers say like 60% or 70% are being coerced. Yeah. Right. And it's like, I mean, there is like a legitimate like 0.5% or 1% that legitimately are. I mean, it's probably not even that high. It's probably more like 0.1 or 0.2%. Yeah. That legitimately are being forced by whomever, by the boyfriend under threat of severe violence against them, or by the sex trafficker under threat of severe violence against them. And it's like when you blend in that with like the woman whose like boyfriend says, "Hey, I really want you to do this," and then you count that as coercion.
They're both the same kind of being forced,
right? It's insulting to the women who are being coerced. To like the woman in China who are like the government comes into their home, drags them to the hospital, and murders their baby against their will, and they're screaming the whole time. That's coercion.
Yeah, right? And that's different than what's going on in the United States of America.
99.9% of these abortions.
Yeah. And we should say
that would be force.
Yeah. Right? Forced. And so there's like coercion, there's forced, and there's that sort of thing. But really there is, even in the instance where someone says, okay, well, they're not being dragged out of their rooms in the middle of the night, but there's just so much pressure, Again, let's trot out the toddler. Okay, guy comes home and he's like, wife, like, why are these Legos out everywhere? These Lego, like, I wish this kid was never born. Like, just presses and presses and presses. It would not be okay for that mother to be like, well, I've got to kill this baby or something. You could make a better analogy, but like...
or like you're out of the house if you don't kill this baby.
Yeah. And it's just like, and that sort of statement is made in reality. Like, I mean, it's terrible, but mothers are supposed to love their children, like almost lay down their lives for their children. That's what mothers do for their babies. And that's what we'd want in our culture, mothers and fathers, that you would like, if someone was coercing you and, telling you got to kill your kids, you would say, no, kill me, like I'm not going to kill my kids. You're going to have to kill me. So again, it's kind of tricky, like there are situations where people are being coerced. And they're even like Anna Ritchie, she's a famous case. She's published her story in a book. She was 13 years old. She was being raped by her stepfather, and he was getting the abortion pills and giving them to her. And he forced her in that way. It's a 13-year-old. He's given her, but when she's 14 and it's the second one, she chooses not to take the pills and then convinces her mom, like, hey, this is happening. And then they use that birth of that child to convict the father, the stepfather. And it's kind of like she's being coerced, but she still knew, no, this is not the right way. And it's that thing. But I think the point, the crazy point is, and I can't believe just how horrible and awful, these compassionate pro-choicers are. They're taking
Pro-lifers.
Well, pro-lifers and pro-choicers. I don't see a difference here, but
this topic.
Yeah, on this topic. But the pro-choicer that is arguing things like, like they'll come and they'll use like rape or something like that. They take some really awful thing that's being done to someone and they're forced, and they say, well, we got to have abortion because of this awful thing, but they're just using them. They're just straight up using that situation to legalize because you'll say, okay, so you are against abortion in 99.9% of the cases. And they're like, no, I think abortion should be on demand for any reason whatsoever. You're like, okay. Yeah. But in the same thing with the pro-lifer, you say, okay, in the instance that they're not coerced and they're not forced and they're doing it like they're having their 7th abortion, is this person a murderer? According to your view and your pro-life legislation, she should have immunity for her 7th abortion. Well, they'll take that woman who was literally forced or coerced
and use it to justify all abortions.
Yeah. And so it's that weird logic.
An abolition bill, it treats these situations individually.
Yeah.
And so like here, the bill that Warren Hamilton's putting forward in Oklahoma, it restates in the bill all of the affirmative defenses that are already in Oklahoma State Code.
Yep.
And so it talks about if you're acting under, it doesn't use the word coercion, but a synonym for coercion.
Like duress.
Yeah.
We'll have a future episode where we go through all those, but yeah.
Yeah. If you're acting under the coercion of someone who's forcing you to do it, forcing you to commit any crime, then you're not going to be guilty of that crime. Or if you're doing it without the knowledge that what you're doing is a crime, then you're not going to be found guilty of that crime. If there's all these defenses that are already in the law, and the abolition bills actually restate within the language of the bill itself.
Yeah.
And so, but it's pro-lifers who want to take, like you said, take the 0.01% and then use it to justify every single case of a mother killing her preborn child.
Yeah, and whenever they kind of come out of the woodwork to argue against abolition bills,
justify in the sense that she is innocent, not justify in the sense that it was an okay act.
Right. Yeah, so that's a good clarification.
Yeah. And so, I think it's important to say, so Senate Bill 495 in Oklahoma goes out of its way to include, hey, already on the laws in the Oklahoma statutes, it says that if you're being forced to commit a crime, you're not guilty. The person who's forcing you is the guilty party. Yeah. If you are out of your mind, it goes through all the stuff that's presently there that's reasonable, that defends people from being sort of punished as though they're like the murder with the forethought, murder. It has those protections. And so, we've made sure that kind of language is in the abolition bill, even though it doesn't have to be in the abolition bill because it's already in Oklahoma law. But pro-lifers are so dead set on arguing against bills of abolition that if you don't put those in the law, they will be like, well, we can't abolish abortion because what about women who are coerced? And it's like, they're already protected by the law.
Yeah, and this is happening in Arizona right now, but this is an important topic for talking to pro-lifers, period, because almost all of them have some version of this second victim narrative. And even if they don't believe that entirely, they'll still think we don't need to criminalize right now because, or we shouldn't criminalize right now because people are so used to believing that abortion is okay that they're not ready for criminalization yet. So we have to prepare them for it. But if you go to our website, I think it's on the About page, go to criminalization. We go over 3 reasons why this line of thinking is incorrect and why it's ultimately damaging the effort to get rid of abortion.
James,
do you want to go over the first one there?
If you go to freethestates.org and then you hover over the What We Believe tab in the menu, and then 6 things will come up and you hit criminalization, the one all the way at the bottom.
And there are more than 3, but there's 3 on the website that we think are the easiest to grasp, and so we should go over them here.
And so reason number 1 why we must never write these exemptions into our bills, or we must never support pro-life legislation that gives automatic exemption to the mother. So reason number 1, these exemptions for the mother legalize self-induced abortion, because if the mother cannot be prosecuted, then she is free to just go to the drugstore and buy some of one of many over-the-counter drugs that have the ability to kill a baby and kill her baby, and there's no one who can be held accountable for that.
Or order them online, which is where it's going. Like, I mean, there are Facebook groups where it's like you go on there and like, how do I get RU486? Like, you can get like abortion-inducing pills to kill babies up to like 10 weeks, 12 weeks through the mail.
Yep, just shipped right to your door, and it comes with instructions. Here's how to do this. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, all of that.
And so, so theoretically, if pro-lifers passed their fake abolition bill or whatever that said you're not allowed to get an abortion in Arizona, but if you do, you're protected. Like, women who break this law and get abortions are protected. In Arizona, a mother who says, I don't want this baby, and then, thinks about it, gets online, knows it's against the law, and finds a way of getting illegal drugs, and then orders them, then takes them, and then, passes her baby into the toilet. You show up, there's a crime, there's an abortion, there's a body, there's a murder, but yet she can say, according to the pro-life law, I am not going to be charged with this.
Yep. Yeah. Completely legal. Yeah.
And it just exposes further the pro-life blind spot to abortifacient birth control and RU46 and things like that. They'll talk about surgical centers shutting down, and they'll act like since surgical centers are shut down, we don't have
Missouri's abortion free.
Yeah.
Didn't you know?
Oh, yeah. Pro-lifers are running around going, Missouri's the first abortion-free state. I mean, they're even using like our language, like free state, and like it's a free state and all this kind of stuff. And you see those memes and you're just like, yeah, they're doing chemical abortions in Missouri. You can get abortion pretty much from every CVS and Walgreens and Walmart and any pharmacy. Like, what are you talking about?
Or an OBGYN office or a hospital.
Yeah, I mean, people are actually going like this actual, I can't remember the name of it, this Jewish hospital in Missouri actually still does these abortions.
And advertise it on their website. Yeah.
And then you've got like leaders of pro-life organizations, because, I mean, it's good for funding and morale and all that kind of stuff, saying it's an abortion-free state. But, yeah, it shows there's sort of latent ageism. They don't really believe, like, people are, like, created equal. They become more equal when they move from chemical to surgical.
Yeah.
Because if we shut down the surgical, we can celebrate it.
And even when they talk about things like late-term abortion, they'll talk about politicians, and they'll say they even think that third trimester abortions are okay.
Yeah.
It's like that's more outrageous that someone would think that. But they're not.
We're the moderate ones who only support abortion beyond 20 weeks. And so we're moderate, and support us because we're moderate on abortion. And that's why vote red.
But it's so crazy. And some of the folks who are even watching the show might be like, well, that's kind of how I think too. Well, it's like, once you start thinking like an abolitionist and kind of adopt an abolitionist paradigm worldview, this all sticks out all the time. You're like, oh, that's ageist. Oh, that's dehumanizing. But when you're not in that mindset, you don't see it. Yeah. Like, I see good people. They're not evil. They've got, they're trying to love their preborn neighbors, saying things like, even late-term abortion, because they think somehow because the body's bigger and there's more blood or there's the surgical instrument used, it's somehow worse. Yeah. But again, that's like a point we always make. Well, why do they think this? They've been educated by pro-life legislation.
Yeah, and Sam, you wrote a really good article about this for the Federalist, actually, because after the New York thing happened last year, and New York passed their awful bill that they passed, and obviously the pro-lifers obviously were up in arms, and rightly, when we should be up in arms about the awful, evil New York bill. But it's like we shouldn't be any more angry at the New York state government for allowing abortion up to birth than we are at the Alabama or Oklahoma state governments for allowing abortion up to, allowing it up to 20 weeks or 24 weeks. It's like the one is just as evil as the other.
And in Alabama and Oklahoma, they have the votes to actually criminalize it. Yep. So it's actually kind of worse,
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, but back to the
so the first main point, just a bill that treats women as victims and says we will never punish a mother who breaks a law to murder a child in the womb by paying someone or by ingesting poison is an unjust bill because it, basically provides complete immunity to murder. It's like saying, it's actually agreeing with Roe v. Wade, saying mothers have this sort of special right
to murder children.
In the womb.
Only doctors can't. A doctor can't do it, but the mom still can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the pro-life. That's the view of the pro-life community. Yep. So that's a major, major one, and that's very pressing because that's the way the culture is going now. But the second one.
Yes. And so number 2, reason why we must not support bills that give automatic immunity to the mother is that penalties are deterrents. And so laws against things don't completely eliminate the thing, right? We still have murder, even though it's illegal, of born people. We still have people steal from each other, even though it's illegal, right? It's not going to get rid of all of it, but it is a deterrent, right? It provides people a strong incentive not to do the thing. And so there are a lot of cases of abortion where the mom is thinking and the dad is are thinking, should I do this or should I not do it? Now, if you add homicide charges to one side of the equation, they're not doing it.
It's going to change it. Pro-lifers are always talking about, we got to pass this because it's going to save some babies. What's interesting is if you criminalized abortion full on as murder, it would save some babies. That some would be a whole lot of babies. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But it probably wouldn't save all babies because just like you said, laws against murder, people still murder. It wouldn't save all babies, but it would save as many as possible.
Right. And Laura Clausen did an unofficial poll on her page, and this is probably about a year and a half ago now.
Yeah, and we've talked about it.
Yeah, and she said, if abortion had been homicide at the time that you had your abortion, would you still have had it? And it was every single respondent said, no.
Yeah,
I would not have risked first-degree murder charges.
Yeah.
Except for one. There was one...
except for Abby Johnson, who's like, heck yeah.
Abby Johnson actually joined in the conversation and said, yes, I still would.
Because she's an apologist of the pro-life movement, and she knows why Laura's asking, and so she's got to chime in there. But I mean, I've had lots of those conversations with ladies like Jill Robbins and Sonia, in Texas, Carissa here in Oklahoma, just pretty much, I don't know if I've ever talked to a post-abortive mother and that come up and heard them say, no, I still would have done it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, because the idea, and also it's like, you would have to seek it out knowing that it's murder, and you'd have to get it in some kind of like dark, secret place. Yeah. Now, chances are it wouldn't be you'd have to have like a doctor who's like, I'll do it, and we're just not going to get caught. You'd have to go way out of your way to not get caught. And in a state where they had passed a bill to criminalize abortion, you're going to have people probably breaking that law. But most people, just like most people don't murder other people.
And the thing is with people who are repentant, when someone is thinking about a sin they've committed and then they're thinking about a better law, they want that law regardless of whether they would have broke it because they think they should have been punished. They think that right now I should have been punished for what I did.
Yeah, they're agreeing with God that it was sin.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was Sonia who actually stood up and said, I would support an abolition bill even if it was retroactive.
Yeah.
You're just like,
wow. And so you see Abby Johnson, it's really telling. She comes up and she says she would have done it anyways, and then she's opposing criminalization. It's like, Abby, if you're supposedly this, you're this repentant Christian now, as that's what you're claiming you are, you're still not seeing that you deserved to be punished, regardless of whether you would have not done it or not.
Yeah.
If you would have had the abortion, you should have been punished. And you should have been saying to yourself, yes, I deserve to be punished here.
And there actually is a very interesting thing with that. I've seen an article from Abby Johnson back in 2013 or 14.
Yeah, sometimes she contradicts herself, yeah.
Well, it was back when she first stopped working at the Planned Parenthood, and she first kind of got involved with the pro-life movement. I think it was, I don't know if it was for Life News or she wrote for some pro-life blog, and she actually said, full on, right back at the time, I murdered 2 of my children.
And I've seen her say that.
I am a murderer.
Yeah.
Now, she spent enough time in the pro-life movement, and she realized, oh man, this isn't what pro-lifers actually say. This is what, as a very new pro-lifer, this is what I thought.
Yeah.
But then she spends time in the pro-life movement, and she realizes, No, pro-lifers don't believe this.
Well, yeah, and also
Because
you think if it's really murder, if I'm gonna run around saying I murdered my child, then how can I also turn around and say, well, in this instance, there shouldn't be any punishment?
Yeah.
Because there's punishment for murderers. Murderers don't get immunity. Yeah. And the other contradiction is that Abby Johnson would argue that these women are being, they're victims and they're being coerced or forced, or the culture has made them do it and we can't hold them responsible. But then whenever you ask her, hey, would you have done this even if it were a homicide? She's like, yep.
Yeah.
It's like, well, come on. I mean, how convoluted can you get? But I think that, we're being a little bit unfair to all pro-lifers in talking about, a leader who has like a whole bunch of skin in the game, the pro-life leader who's opposing a bill of abolition. But that's why we're talking about this. Yeah. And I think on the note of the way the law acts as a deterrent, yes, we're trying to save as many lives, and we're also trying to help people, not do evil. Yeah. It's better to have evil done to you than to do evil. But it kind of shows the real difference between the pro-life mindset and the abolitionist mindset. The abolitionist is trying to establish justice. We're trying to establish justice in the law, just and equal treatment of all people, no partiality for born, unborn, all that sort of stuff. Yeah. And so that's why, that's why I really don't use like terminology like for life, or so, like we're not passing a bill for life. We're not taking action for life. We're actually standing up for justice. And so it's the pro-life mindset that is actually antithetical to justice.
Yep.
The culture's opposed to justice. And so whenever we say, no, there's got to be justice, they find it so offensive. And I think that rather than being like, okay, well, I'm going to like hide that, we need to be very loud about it. Because even in the event that an abolition bill is put forward and doesn't pass, the culture is full of people preaching justice.
Yeah, and what's really interesting about their view of why they don't want justice, they really view the law as just a deterrent. So they oppose things like the death penalty because they think this is just about deterring it. We can deter it by other means, and it's cruel or wrong to give someone the death sentence, right?
Yeah.
But they also don't believe that abortion criminalization is going to be the deterrent that we need to keep people away from murdering their babies. So it's like, this is the only purpose of the law for you, but you also don't want to use that purpose for abortion.
Yeah. And so all these pro-life laws that they do pass, they are designed, as you say, to try to reduce the numbers or be a deterrent. Like, making the waiting period longer so that maybe something can happen and they can make a better choice or something. It's like they're trying to like have deterrence, like making sure that women, have to hear a heartbeat or something.
They just don't want a really good deterrent.
But we've seen that you can pass all these regulations and deterrents and abortions still happen, which kind of like what they're doing is they're proving themselves wrong. They're like saying women don't really know what's going on. And they pass all these bills saying you got to like listen to a heartbeat and you got to wait, you got to like get counseling because we want to make sure that you know what you're doing. And then people still kill their babies.
Because they already know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because
it's like they basically
sin.
They basically believe that the people are basically good. That's kind of their assumption. It's like they completely ignore what the Bible says about people. They don't look at Romans 1 that says that although they knew God, they did not honor him as God, professing to be wise, they became fools.
Right.
And they suppressed the truth in unrighteousness. That's not their view of man. Their view of man is you're basically good, and if you have enough information, you're going to do good.
Yeah.
Information is not going to change the heart of a sinner. Yeah. God changes the heart of a sinner. So when you say to a sinner, look at your ultrasound of your baby's beating heart, and they care only about themselves, they're going to kill that baby.
Yeah, they'll look at the ultrasound, they'll listen to the beating heart, and they kill the baby. I mean, child sacrifice was going on in the ancient world where they literally were like laying the baby onto a furnace.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's this bad view, the foundation for all clear thinking about man is that he's fallen.
Yeah.
And it's like, they don't think that people are fallen somehow. Or they may propositionally say, yeah, no, I get that. Yeah, I check that off. Like, I think people are sinners, but I'm not going to treat them that way.
Yeah.
The abolition bill does presuppose that, yeah, people know they're sinning. They know that they're murdering, and they're getting away with it because the law says they're allowed to.
Yeah.
And so the second point that's so important is, like, if we can get the law to be just and the law to say, you're not allowed to do this, and if you do this, you are an evildoer, and the law is here, as Romans 13 says, to punish evildoers.
Yeah, because all sinners understand one thing, and that is punishment. A rod for the back of fools is what the Bible says, because no one wants to be punished. No one wants to be hurt for the things that they do, the hurt that they do to other people. So that's the only thing that's going to be actually holding back a sinner beyond them being redeemed and changed by Christ.
And it's the thing that we are
from that,
called to do. So, I mean, I think we're actually hitting the major points here. Yeah. Pro-lifers have a bad view of man and a bad view of law.
Yeah.
And of course, at the root of all of this is the original reason that we have abortion in the first place, and it's this inconsistency. So the third thing on our website.
Yeah, well, I want to say one real quick thing on point 2 before we move on.
Yeah.
And that's this. We go on justice on this point, right? Is what we're talking about a lot. We gotta actually have a just law.
Yep.
But there's also a point where, we get accused of being unloving for wanting justice. But there's a point where you've got this thing where all these people saying they wouldn't have had this abortion if the law had only said abortion was murder. All these people could have been spared all this, this hurt and guilt that they had to suffer through. That's unloving.
Oh yeah.
Allowing someone by law to choose to murder their own child and the damage that's going to do to your own soul and your own psyche, allowing that, writing into your law, you are allowed to murder your child as long as you're the mother.
Oh yeah. They
so
share in
unloving.
it. They share in it. Yeah. I mean, you quoted Romans 1. You look at the end of that passage, it actually talks about how they know that they're doing this thing, but they allow murder. Like they allow murder, and that's what our legislators are doing. Like you say, well, they're passing these laws to deter them and they did the best that they did. It's like, no, women are murdering their children in our culture, and they feel like they're doing something okay by permission of the governing authorities.
Of the pro-life governing authorities.
And it's unloving to tell them the truth. Yeah. Because if you were to tell them the truth, you would be being discompassionate or something like that.
Say. Yeah. It's nuts. And so it's actually loving to uphold justice. Like, it's a very loving thing to do. And so point 3 of why we must not support these laws, which give automatic immunity to the mother to murder her child in all cases, is because doing so is actually part of what led to the Roe v. Wade decision in the first place.
Yep.
And so Justice Blackmun, who was the author of the decision, he writes in footnote 54 of the decision, he says, there are other inconsistencies between 14th Amendment status and the typical abortion statute. It has already been pointed out that in Texas, the woman is not a principal or an accomplice with respect to the abortion upon her. If the fetus is a person, why is the woman not a principal or an accomplice?
Yeah.
Further, the penalty for criminal abortion specified by Article 1195 is significantly less than the maximum penalty for murder prescribed by Article 1257 of the Texas Penal Code. If the fetus is a person, may the penalties be different. And so what he's saying here, well, the state of Texas, you're arguing the pro-life side, but what you're saying is that, the 14th Amendment in equal protection of the law, should be given to the child in the womb. But your laws in your own state say the mother is free to murder her child, even though she's the primary accomplice. She's the principal to the crime, but you're saying that she's completely free to do this. And so you're not actually giving them equal protection if you are allowing the mother to murder with impunity. And so you don't even believe what you're preaching in court.
And undermining the case. So you have it at the very beginning, and they don't know the history, or they don't understand the law or what happened in the culture. And that Justice Blackmun was actually making a very good point, and it was very instructive. But here, with the tweet from the Arizona pro-lifer, you've got her basically making the same mistake.
Yeah.
So in the event, pro-lifers always want things to go to courts and then be, verified by courts and upheld and all that kind of stuff. In the event that it goes to the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court can just side with the pro-lifers again and be like, well, listen, pro-lifers, you you're saying that the mother who murders her child should not be punished. So how can we criminalize it without punishing it? You're being inconsistent, and so on and so forth. So, which we could go on and on. It's very important that people get this. Go to the website, read about it. We have a new pamphlet that's coming out that's going to go into this quite a bit. We also have an upcoming Abolition Now conference, and at that conference, Bradley Pierce is going to be giving a lecture that really goes into detail on criminalization, why we have to do this. But the other maybe final salient point among the three is that if we're really trying to abolish abortion, you're really trying to get rid of abortion, end it or curtail it or anything like that. Like that's the pro-lifers trying to do that. We're trying to establish justice, right? But if you really are trying to end abortion, you cannot do that without criminalizing it.
Yeah.
Like it's like they can't say on one hand, I agree with you that abortion should be abolished. I just oppose criminalization. You cannot abolish something without criminalizing it. Because what sense does it make to say you're not allowed to do this, but if you do it, you're not going to get in trouble?
Yeah. And I'm really sad because I would love to be finishing out the episode with the giveaway, but I have a haircut that I'm supposed to get in 1 minute.
So disappear.
I'll see you guys later.
Have fun editing that. You might be able to just do something funny where you just disappear.
And so those are three of the reasons why it is very, very important for us to actually make abortion itself criminal, not just make it criminal for the doctor to help as a third party, but make abortion itself a criminal act. And so if you want to read those, even more fleshed out, you can go to our website, like I said, the What We Believe tab, and then criminalization, which is all the way at the bottom.
Yeah.
Read all of them. I mean, they're all good stuff, but criminalization is what we're talking about here. So
and if by providence you're watching this and you really do have a pro-life mindset, and some of the stuff we're saying, you've got a pro-life mindset because you've been indoctrinated in that way, but you're a Christian, and some of this you're probably thinking, wow, that makes a lot of sense. This is blowing my mind or whatever, and you're kind of doing that. Yeah, we have a lot of we're beating a dead horse. We talk about this all the time, but we have to continue to talk about it because pro-lifers continue to put out tweets like this and lead people astray in this way. And it's just crazy how common it is in our culture for well-respected leaders, pro-lifers, Christians, church leaders, all these folks to make these statements that are so at odds with a biblical view of justice, a biblical view of man. And abolition bills, we're not like addicted. We're not like running out wanting to punish people or into I just want to criminalize and punish women or something like that.
Yeah, if you listen to them, you would think that the bill says women shall be singled out for penalty.
Yeah.
But really, an abolition bill, what it does is it says life begins at conception, and the equal protection of the law shall be given to all human beings from that point forward.
Yeah.
That's what the abolition bill does.
And the implications of that are the laws against murder are applied equally to all people. And so the person who murders a human is treated the same as the person who murders a human.
Yeah.
And so it's awful. But I mean, we're going to see the same thing in Oklahoma. There's going to be substitute bills put forward that are considered better than the abolition bill because the abolition bill punishes women.
Yeah.
And I hate even saying that's the way they say it. The abolition bill establishes justice for the preborn child, and in so doing, creates a law against murdering them in the womb, prohibits it, and in the event in the future that someone knowingly breaks that law to murder their child, they will be punished.
Yeah. Our position is as radical as equal protection for all people.
Yeah. As radical as human rights. It's as radical as the Bible.
Yeah.
And so it's so weird to see. I mean, because once your mind's wrapped around this, you see tweets like that and you're like, surely this person's not a Christian. This is some kind of other other worldview, but it's
a pastor's wife, actually.
A pastor's wife, yeah.
Pastor's wife, yeah.
So, and the interesting thing, in Arizona, there's been lots of news coverage because this is the first time a bill of abolition has been put forward in Arizona. And so the media is, of course, losing their minds. And, the media, the leftists, the pro-choicers, abortion advocates, whatever you want to call them, are all like, oh my gosh, this bill is just trying to criminalize and punish women.
Yeah.
So the media is basically just saying what the pro-life movement's saying.
It's the same, yeah. And here's what's so interesting. So Kathy Herridge's tweet, if you go, I think it's still, at least as of the recording of this, it's still her most recent tweet. And if you go to it, you'll just see in the replies just tweet after tweet from pro-choicers
piling on,
just bashing her, saying, "Well, you still oppose abortion rights. You're still this awful pro-lifer woman." Like just bashing her. And so it's like she's doing this thing where she's trying to kind of moderate the pro-life position and try to gain some of the support from the other side and reach across the aisle by rejecting these like extremists at End Abortion Now who are so crazy that they believe in equal protection. Right? She's trying to reach across the aisle. And it doesn't buy her any goodwill. They still hate her as much as they hate End Abortion Now.
Yeah, and they probably don't even see a difference.
Yeah.
So she's going out of her way to oppose the Abolition of Abortion in Arizona Act. And like she's thinking, oh, I'm being compassionate. But all the abortion advocates are like, we hate you too. Yeah. Like, so I mean, if you're going to stand up for the preborn child and, be consistent. But if you're going to like try to do something like this to gain favor with the world, you're not gonna gain favor. They're
gonna hate you anyway. Yeah.
Yeah.
People always think that it's like it's the tragic mistake that like I think abolitionism is really seeking to correct. And they think by compromising, it's how they can create change. And it's just such a ridiculous. You're not creating any change by these compromises and these concessions with child sacrifice advocates. You've got to state the truth plainly. Make the culture come to you. Don't concede things. Don't compromise, state the truth plainly, hold to it firmly, make the culture move to you.
Yeah. And in this instance, as we're talking about, and as people should see, the pro-lifer is seeking to find common ground with the culture of death. And that common ground is protecting a woman's right to murder her children with impunity. So, yes, please go to our website, read up on that. If your mind's getting blown and you want to learn more, we've got an upcoming event that we are going to spend a good deal talking about, the ideology of abolitionism, its biblical foundations, its practical, principled application towards legislation, paradigm shift from pro-life to abolition, nullification, defenses of criminalization, talking points, how to lobby a bill, how to engage people, just lots of great stuff. That's coming up. Like it's like tomorrow. It's February 8th and 9th is the Abolition Now conference. Make sure if you are really wanting to get involved, not just learning all this stuff, like you have to learn these things so you can, speak adequately and so on and so forth and really be useful in the cause. It's good to learn. But also if you're wanting to get involved and plugged in, networked with other abolitionists, this upcoming conference is going to be just a real good opportunity to do that. There's always good, sweet fellowship at abolition conferences. And there's always, there's activism, abolitionists, they just do that. There's going to be lots of stuff going on. But, if you're watching these things and you're kind of liking and sharing and you're sort of the Facebook or YouTube or whatever podcast you're listening to, abolitionist, you really need to get involved. And so we've got a registration for that. It has a small cost just so we can afford the sort of the conference center and everything. But it's in Oklahoma City. It's at Embassy Suites. Just look at the link, get the details. But people who are coming to that conference are also going to be getting a hold of a new pamphlet that we are about to order. As of the release of this episode, maybe we've already ordered it, but we're putting out a new pamphlet from Free the States called "Are You an Abolitionist?" I can actually I can put up this is the I think we may have put this up online at some point, but this is the cover art for that new pamphlet. It's called Are You an Abolitionist? Principal author on that is James Silberman. And what we've labored to do with this pamphlet is, put out, like, here's the tenets of abolitionism. Here's an abolitionist bill. Here's what abolitionists believe and why, and get people to say, are you an abolitionist? And so I think it's one of the best things you've ever written. It might be the best thing you've ever written. I don't know. It's pretty darn good. So that pamphlet will be coming out and be available on February 8th to conference registrants and participants. We'll probably also be giving them out at Abolition Day, which is
February 9th.
February 9th.
Yep.
Super important.
And we will have our store up sometime soon, hopefully by the end of February, maybe the end of March. Sometime in the next couple months, we're going to have a store where we're going to sell our T-shirts, or we're going to sell this new pamphlet. We're going to have some drop cards.
And hopefully more and more stuff as time goes by.
Yep.
Like we want to provide resources that help abolitionists. Yep. And I feel bad because we're always talking about this store and sometimes get messages like, when's the store? We are going to get the store. We just are so busy, making the stuff or doing the legislative analysis and all that we just haven't done it. But it's coming. But more important than all of that is today.
Oh, you were on.
I was going to say I was just, I want to take the opportunity to do two things. One, I just remembered because I can hear Rachel talking to me and I can hear Josh's soul. But the first thing is that if you're listening to this, whatever excuse you have for not being at Abolition Day, especially if you live in Oklahoma, it's probably not valid. You need to be at the Oklahoma State Capitol on February 9th at 9:30 a.m. You just got to be there. I do not care whatever pressing thing. It's so important that the legislators see a large number of abolitionists, because some of the things that we're arguing, they know that they're true, and they know it's only a matter of time before they have to criminalize abortion or they look totally inconsistent. But they also kind of think, I don't think they've really convinced enough people. I can get away with delaying abolition and putting forward pro-life bills and still be considered a hero. I'm still going to look like a golden boy to the church by regulating abortion. And we think that it's actually not true, that we have reached a considerable number of people and that the legislators need to be mindful of that. And even if they're just thinking of their future careers in politics or their future reputations, they need to know the abolitionist movement has arrived, is growing, and as Joseph Silk says, spreading like wildfire and is inevitable. One of the ways that they begin to know this and begin to act accordingly is by seeing on Abolition Day a massive, passionate, well-informed, educated group of people. So supremely important that you come. And you say, well, I'll just be another head in the audience. Yes, we want you to be there. And if you need another, I'm not trying to guilt trip you into it, but literally this is an opportunity to actually stand up for those who cannot stand for themselves. We say that all the time. It's opportunity to speak up for your preborn neighbor who can't speak. Well, how and what way can you do that in our culture? It's by going and being a part of this, being seen, being heard. It sends a very large message, and it really is only effective if we have a huge crowd. If we have a small crowd, it's not as effective. We'll still go, we'll still argue, but we hope that if you're convinced by these arguments and you do consider yourself an abolitionist and do consider yourself as someone who wants to love their neighbor as themselves and do for them what you would have done for you, you can take one day and get to the Oklahoma State Capitol. So very, very important. Now, the other thing, do you know what the other thing, the voice of Rachel in my head is?
Probably, but I'll let you say it in case I'm wrong.
Oh, but I don't want to say it. I hate saying it. It's donations.
Okay, I know what it is. As soon as you said I hate saying it, I knew I was right.
Yeah, man. I've even had people like contact me. They're like, well, you used to be so opposed to like fundraising and now you have to fundraise. And I'm like, well, yeah, it's because it's a different time and different reasons. And it's not like we're buying freaking jets, so we can go make prophecies about African angels or something like that. We need money for reasonable.
We need money to print thousands of "Are you an abolitionist?" pamphlets so that we can give them out to people.
Yeah, when we print this, we have to print a very small number, and we have to give it to people who've registered because it's figured into their registration fee. But coming up for Abolition Day, Abolition Now, it all costs money, and we have not yet met our budget just for paying for the stage and the sound equipment. We haven't even met that yet. And I'm not trying to sound pathetic. It's just, we spend a lot of time producing materials, educating, writing articles, getting on the phone, engaging people and all that kind of stuff. We don't spend a lot of time asking for money. But for some of my old school abolitionist friends, you probably think we spend too much time. But it's the reality of the situation. The more money that we have, the better we're able to do this. The wider audience that we can gain by boosting posts, by advertising, so on and so forth. So, yes, come to Abolition Day. Don't give and make that an excuse not to come. But if you really, really can't come, or you're in some other state, but you are paying attention to what's happening in Oklahoma and you know that it's going to affect the rest of the nation, please prayerfully give. Donate, help us do what we're doing. Help us do it and not end up in debt. We don't want to be in debt. And finally, pray. We need lots of prayer, not just for us, but for Senator Warren Hamilton, for the legislators, for people that may be on the fence, for the media, just for everything and anything. We need to cover this whole deal in prayer. We pray and we go and we work and we pray as we work. But we are people who believe in the power of prayer. So definitely begin spending time, fasting, praying, lifting up this whole project, legislation, the stuff going on in Arizona, the stuff going on in Idaho, Texas, Missouri, Indiana. It's every day that we watch this and you see temptations, you see different groups fighting, you see different, legislators like feeling like nobody's going to support them. You see communities and groups getting deceived into supporting bad things. We just need a lot of prayer. We need a lot of help, and we need the Spirit of God to be very active in the movement to abolish abortion. So, if you can't give, you can't show up, you should definitely be praying.
That's right.
And give and show up.
Yep.
So.
And one of the perks of giving is that you get. I think you forgot the whole reason you went off on. I forgot that we also try to induce giving by giving back. Yes.
Yeah.
So this piece of art right here, which is the cover of the soon to be published Free the States pamphlet, Are You an Abolitionist?
Yeah.
This piece of art is going to the person.
Yeah. So this is an original pen and ink piece of art, and every 4 or so episodes we give away a piece of art to someone who is a regular giver to Free the States. If you weren't supplying us with the things that we need and the pens and the light and the heat, that wouldn't exist. So rather than it just going in a shelf here at our office, we like to distribute the art. So one lucky.
You want to go for it?
Did I draw it last time?
Okay, I did.
I feel like I always feel bad whenever they fall out. There's the mix up, You can select.
With this one that's almost falling out here.
All right.
Joe Smith.
That's
Joe Smith from Idaho.
Yeah. Hey, man. And he's kind of, what's funny?
It's not the man. It's actually, so this is funny. It's a couple.
It's a couple.
Joseph and Joanna Smith. And so this is it's actually the wife, Joanna.
I bet it's going to, to become one. It's going to the same house.
Yeah.
You know what's really crazy? That was the one that was falling out. I am actually wearing a shirt designed by Joe Smith. That's
nuts.
Yeah, sweet. Totally cool. So this is Abolitionist Rising, something that he gave to me whenever I was in Idaho at one of their conferences, giving a talk. And so we're going to send this to you guys, sister and brother. This is coming, and you guys can just share it or fight over it or whatever, frame it, hang it up, or put it to the side. And who knows, maybe it'll be worth something someday. If not, I'm glad it's in your possession. So thank you for giving, allowing us to do this. Thank you for everyone else. We hope that you're giving just so we can continue to do this. But if you want to possibly win some art and empower us, please support Free the States.
Yep, go to freethestates.org. There's a red donate button in the top right-hand corner of the page. So that's our episode.
Yep.
Responding to Kathy Herod. We hope that a lot of people everywhere, but especially Arizonans, see this, understand. Do not be donating to organizations that are opposing abolition bills.
Yeah.
Do not donate to Kathy Herrod's organization. Do not support them. We've got to teach them, and part of that is openly rebuking and privately rebuking. If you know her privately, reach out to her privately.
Right. We're not just trying to be mean.
Yeah, but it really is. This has got to stop. It's got to stop. And so share this with any of your friends in Arizona, because it's very important that they know that Kathy Herod and I forget the name now. I think it's the Center for Arizona Policy, I believe is the name of the organization, are opposing the bill to abolish abortion in Arizona. Anyway, important episode.
Yep. Like it, share it, subscribe so you don't miss future episodes.
Yep. And next week we are going to be talking about the pro-life bills here in Oklahoma that are inevitably going to be used in order to distract from the bill that will abolish abortion. And so that's going to be a really important one. We're going to be doing all of our reading up on those bills, highlighting, getting all the good parts, explaining why they're wrong in detail. And so, do not miss that one.
Stuff's getting real, and you need to get educated, and you need to get active. So thanks for watching the Liberator podcast. This was episode 23. And so episode 24 next Thursday night. Thanks for tuning in, liking, subscribing, sharing, and being a part of what we're doing.